In this video, I want to talk about a couple things that you can do to make your classes a little bit more professional. And one of those things is to add a document string, a doc string. So in Python, a document string is identified by three quotes. We've already been using them in functions, but we can use them in classes as well, and they work the same way. When I hover over a class, so if I'm in this particular class, and I've got the class identified there, if I hover over it, it will eventually pop up with a tooltip giving me information about the class. So that's actually pretty handy. Now, the list class is built into Python, and this is the document string that they wrote. It's still a document string. It's just, it's not the most user-friendly one in the world. I think we can do better. I think we can make things look a bit more professional. And so I'm suggesting this format. Now, on the job, you may have people that want more or less, but I think this is a good start. And what this does is it identifies the different properties that they're going to work with. That's our data members. And then the different methods, that's our processing members that we have. And then after that, a changelog. Now, a changelog is certainly optional, but when I'm working in a team environment and somebody made a change 5 years ago, it could be that I could go back and take a look and see who made the change, see when they made the change. We can do the same thing with software like Git and GitHub. That's definitely possible, but it's also one more thing we have to track down and use when a very simple solution that has been working for many, many decades is just put a simple string of just put a simple indicator right in your header, and that way you can just track it down. Now, if I'm making software for maybe customers it's outside facing, I may not necessarily want to put all this goodness in there. But if it's an internal application, I think this is actually a real good idea. And trust me, there's a lot more internal applications that get written for companies, because usually you're setting up some kind of application to automate some process that your company's been doing for a while. And for most of you, that's where you'll start your programming careers. So it's a good idea to have these document strings. And again, this is the format I'm suggesting. A brief description, identify the properties, identify the methods, put a changelog in there. And then, we do the same thing with our functions. So our functions are going to have the same thing. When you're doing your homework assignment this week, you're going to be making classes and functions. Put your document string in the methods and put them in the class. You don't actually put them in the constructor because the constructor is automated behind the scenes. People don't really see into that. They're not calling that directly. And you don't put them in the property procedures. Same kind of way. You could do it, but that's typically not done. So, but in the standard methods where people are kind of using that directly, where you're calling that particular method, it's usually a good idea to have a document string at the function level, the method level, as well as at the class level. Again, you can see here that the one that I'm recommending is a lot more user-friendly, easier to read than the one that is built into Python. I'm just gonna go out on a limb and say I think mine's better. Of course, better is always objective, right? Or should I say, excuse me, subjective. So, but I'm going to ask that for my course, please use the format I'm defining. Another thing we can use to make it more professional is we can actually provide hints about the data type. Now, this is relatively recent to Python. They haven't always allowed this to be done. But basically, when you have a method that accepts parameter data, you can identify what type of data is expected. Now, this won't stop you from putting in things like numbers, even if it's flagged as a string, but it will give a hint. And you can see here when I look at the person constructor, so I can see in there that it's expecting a string. So this is looking at the constructor. I'm hovering over the person class. It's showing me the constructor. It's showing me the docstring. The constructor is automatically shown here because that's an important thing to know, right? How do you make an object from the class? And these type hints, that's what they're called. What type of data do you expect to go in there are useful. Other languages enforce that. So if you define a data type, say it's a string, it's always going to be a string. Let's say you define it as an integer and you try to pass an ABC. Not going to work. If you say it's a string and you try to pass in 1, 2, 3, not going to work. You type in quotes 1, 2, 3, that's still going to work. That's why we still need some validation. But the first line of defense of keeping bad data out of your variables and constants is identifying what type of data is expected. Python is a loosely typed language instead of a strongly typed language. In a strongly typed language, they enforce the rule. In a loosely typed language, they don't, and it's up to you as a developer to ensure that the data is what you expect it to be by writing additional code. So those are two things that you can do to make it your code a little bit more professional. And I expect everybody to do that for their homework assignment. It's good practice, both practicing for in the course and also a good practice in your professional career. Next up, let's talk a little bit about GitHub Desktop. I'll see you there.